Hello everyone, this is Joshua Smith of Apollo's Artifacts. I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of terms you'll hear me use on the show from time to time. The first one is psychosphere. Basically what this just means is the realm or sphere of human consciousness. It's actually a subset of the concept biosphere. Now most people, if they've heard the term psychosphere at all, it was in the first season of True Detective from the character played by Matthew McConaughey named Rust Cole. There was a scene wherein he said, "I get a bad taste in my mouth out here, aluminum, ash, like you can smell the psychosphere." The line was written by the show's creator, Nic Pizallotto, who was born in Louisiana and studied at LSU and Arkansas. Season 1 of True Detective was heavily influenced by the work of H.P. Lovecraft, and it generally fits into the categories of a neo-noir and a Southern Gothic. However, the most important thing about the show is that it investigates the concept of SRA, or satanic ritual abuse. And the show isn't really an entirely fictional account either. The real-life case upon which much of it is based is extraordinarily disturbing. I will link an article below revealing much more of what actually happened. The other term is Noosphere, which literally just means mind sphere. That is basically just a reference to the conscious level of thought overall for humanity. And that too can be considered a subset of the concept of biosphere overall. And more I think these concepts of psychosphere and noosphere are being interwoven through the use of social media contacts. And we seem to be progressing more and more towards a time in which both the noosphere and psychosphere will be directly interwoven with our biosphere. This is very similar to some of the concepts that Elon Musk was talking about in a recent appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. And some see these as socio-biological concepts that will ultimately culminate in a sort of a process of evolution that develops toward what some have referred to as the omega point, which I believe Elon Musk would refer to in the AI terms as the singularity. And these ideas have actually been studied at Princeton under what is called the Global Consciousness Project. But there are always two sides of this developing sort of in a parallel concept where one is running towards the side of freedom and the other side is always headed towards the side of tyranny and totalitarianism and authoritarianism. Because the free side wants to allow for the free exchange of ideas, the other side wants to move more towards Fahrenheit 451 and Brave New World in 1984, and really that side will culminate where all three of those types of tyrannies will be combined. And there's lots of evidence to show that already this is what is behind many of the moves being made by the Silicon Valley giants, the tech left giants. They want to ban all speech that they deem offensive with their ill-defined concepts of what is offensive and what counts as hate speech. And I now see recently we have stories coming out showing that Amazon is actually deleting digital versions of books that have been sold there without problem in times past. And the truly frightening thing beyond simply the power that they wield is the unity of mindset that is shared across all of the tech left giants. Everything from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube and so on. And the worst part about it to me is that they show absolutely zero interest whatsoever in actually attempting to understand people on the other side. We've had these videos coming out lately of the Google executives and the Google employees all basically crying following the election where Hillary Clinton lost. And the behavior there is just absolutely shameful. I could not imagine this taking place at any, say, conservative place at all. And certainly libertarians would never behave in such a manner. And in the interest of giving you a little hint as to where all of these things are headed, let me read a short little quote here and I'll link the source below. At the root of the primary definition of noosphere is a dual perception that life on Earth is a unity constituting a whole system known as the biosphere, and that the mind or consciousness of life, the Earth's thinking layer, constitutes a unity that is discontinuous but coextensive with the entire system of life on Earth, inclusive of its inorganic support systems. A third critical premise arising from the first two is that the noosphere defines the inevitable next stage of terrestrial evolution, which will subsume and transform the biosphere itself. And really, this notion of the noosphere is connected to another concept called noogenesis, which is the idea of the emergence and the evolution of intelligence itself, which is something that we are actually co-evolving toward or co-developing currently as we eventually will produce artificial intelligence. And some people connect these three concepts, noogenesis, noosphere, and psychosphere, with the concept of the global brain. I'll read a portion here. The global brain is a neuroscience-inspired and futurological vision of the planetary information and communications technology network that interconnects all humans and their technological artifacts. As this network stores ever more information, takes over ever more functions of coordination and communication from traditional organizations, and becomes increasingly intelligent, it increasingly plays the role of a brain for the planet Earth. Proponents of the global brain hypothesis claim that the internet increasingly ties its users together into a single information processing system that functions as part of the collective nervous system of the planet. The intelligence of this network is collective and distributed. It is not centralized or localized in any particular individual, organization, or computer system. Therefore, no one can command or control it. Rather, it self-organizes. It emerges from the dynamic networks of interactions between its various components. This is a property typical of complex adaptive systems. Now, the real problem with this theory, of course, is that the tech left giants are actually interfering with this process. They actually are commanding and controlling and manipulating it. And we see this with Google constantly, Twitter constantly, Facebook constantly. And now increasingly we are actually seeing Amazon getting involved in this as well, which is extremely dangerous. And the reason why it's so dangerous is they're not just interfering with or manipulating the process of free speech. They're actually involved in a type of thought control. And memes really play a critical role in part of the psychosphere and the noosphere as well. And we see not only this softer form of manipulation without using the long arm of the law, but now we're actually seeing the EU get involved, and they are going to use the law against the ability to meme or to link to news sources. And this copyright law that they have passed, which is going to hit people with various types of link taxes, is going to be heavily punitive on small people, and you're going to see all kinds of big businesses and big corporations will get these special blessings and exemptions and things of that nature. And if you read the way that the law is written, it absolutely eviscerates the concept of fair use. And it was specifically written that way because they don't like populism, they don't like nationalism, and they don't like people who are opposed to globalism or internationalism. And what the tech left companies will most likely end up doing is they'll turn it all over to algorithms and then bye-bye to much of our free speech that we enjoy right now. Let me read a short portion here that gives you a sense of what this new EU law will possibly do. Quote, "Many tech platforms like Google's YouTube rely on a model of user-generated content where people often share images, music, and snippets from films. In most cases where a copyright infringement has taken place, content is taken down following a request from a publisher. But the new legal framework would place the onus of removal on the internet giants. Such a shift in the law could force many of these firms to rethink that model." So I think we're all able to see where this is probably heading, and if it ends up being a, quote, success for the elites in Europe, then of course they will eventually want to impose that here in the US as well. So we need to beware. Anyway, that was just a short little description of Psychosphere and Noosphere, which ended up leading into some places I didn't really expect. But please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.